Hi there, Tilda. Thanks for sending us this set of essays. I understand that your exam is tomorrow, so let's get these back to you with some feedback so that you can be ready for your exam. Okay, the first is your task 1. It would have been really helpful if I had had the image in front so that I can refer to it, but let me see what I can do with what you've sent us. The pie chart shows the amount of McDonald's outlets in the 6 countries with the highest number of stars. Here it would have been a good idea to actually say which the 6 countries are. The graph is divided by countries and shows the absolute with an E number of outlets. Get rid of the word absolute. More than half of the pie chart is covered by the 14, etc. McDonald's stores in the United States. Respectively, Japan and China have only this and this number of McDonald's outlets, which is not even sum up to half the number which can be found in the United States. The last fraction of the pie chart is made up of Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. These countries have comparably small numbers of McDonald's outlets between this and this. The graph clearly depicts that the United States is the country with the largest number of McDonald's outlets. Okay. Alright, so it turns out that I found the pie chart that you were referring to, and I wanted to do this so that we could talk about what you could do here. Now, this is clearly one of those pie charts that doesn't really have a ton of information to talk about. It looks like you've got 6 categories, 6 countries with their McDonald's outlets. So you're going to have to extend quite a bit. So what you need to do in this case is the exact opposite of what you need to do when you have a lot of information. When you have a lot of information, you have to group information together. So like things with like things and so forth. Here you have to do the opposite. You have to extend and expand on some of the information. So I would not have done some of the grouping that you did. There was absolutely no reason for it. So there's no reason to talk about China and Japan together. There's no reason to talk about these 3 countries together, or however you did it. Because what you're really doing is you're missing an opportunity to extend and get over that suggested 150 word minimum. So let's talk about this a little more. You had said that McDonald's was over half of, in the US, was over half, and that's the only thing you said. Now, because I didn't have the chart in front of me, it didn't really give me the sense of what that meant. Now, looking at it, I have a totally different impression. So I think it's really important to then go and say, this is 10 times more, over 10 times more than the last country, okay, or the country with the least number in the pie chart, which is the UK. Or you could have also said that this is 5 times more outlets than the country with the second highest number, which is Japan. All right, so this is the kind of emphasis you want to give this to really show just how enormous this is, rather than just saying, okay, McDonald's in the US accounted for more than half. All right, well, that doesn't really show us the whole picture. So that's one thing you really want to do, especially here with this. I think that's important, that this was 5 times more McDonald's outlets than the country with the second highest, which was, interestingly enough, Japan. Then you could say, let's see if you can do any little math with this information. You could say that this has about 1/10 less than this. I think that's accurate. Or you could say that the country with the 3rd number of McDonald's outlets was China, with about 300 fewer outlets, okay, than Japan. And then you can say the remaining 3 countries all had less than half of China's numbers, okay? Or you could have said they all had less than 2,000 McDonald's outlets in their country. And then you can talk about them individually. Here you can say that the numbers range between this and this. There are a bunch of different ways you can do this, but it's all about extending. Yeah, grouping together, as I just did here, that's okay, but then you extend and you give a little more information. So the first sentence is kind of like an introduction. Okay, so these all had less than half of China. Okay, well, now go into detail and then explain that. Germany has 1,378, approximately half of this, and what country is that? France had even fewer at 1,274. And the country with the fewest McDonald's, or rounding out the top 6, was the UK with just over 1,000. Okay, you could say something like that. And so that's where you're really extending. And you can do that because, like I said, there's so little information here. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at what else you wrote. All right, so here we go with your task 2. In today's globalized world, an increasing number of companies is active on a global level. In order to expand, they use international marketing to spread their ideas. Okay, this is not a full introduction, Tilda. You're missing some information here. You're missing, first of all, you haven't rephrased the debate at hand. And the debate is if this is intrusive and invasive, or if it's a wonderful economical way to gain information. You have to mention that there is this debate, there is this controversy, and then because they've asked you for your opinion, you also really must give this in the introduction. Okay, so it's a very brief introduction here, and it's not completely following the convention of essay writing. All right, let's move on. On the one hand, advertisement is a very efficient way to gain new costumers. Careful with your spelling here. You wrote people who create costumes and not people who purchase things. You meant customers, so it's you and then O here. Moreover, it can help to educate people, among others, about what does that mean? Moreover, it can help educate people, among others, about different languages and cultures. Okay, this is really rather confusing. Check it out what's happening. When you say among others, it's as if it can educate people among other things. Like, so other what? Animals, objects. The grammar here is a little confusing. It's partially your word order, so it's creating some incoherence. Another issue that I have here is that you said this thing, it's an efficient way to gain new customers, and then you just kind of dropped it and you moved on to something else about educating. So I didn't understand really why you did that. When you have an idea and when you say something, when you claim something like this, that it's an efficient way to gain new customers, the next question automatically is why? Okay, and so you have to answer that why. And if you don't want to answer that why, or if you don't feel it's relevant, or you're just like, oh, it's not that important, then don't say it, okay? You're only going to write the things that you plan to support. And if you're not going to support it, then don't write it at all. So this either, like I said, needed to be supported or needed to be left out. Then, it can help educate people about language, let's try it. Moreover, it can help educate people about different languages, cultures, and new ideas, for example. I do believe that for less privileged children, it can be a great motivation. It can be a great motivation to put a lot of energy into their education if they are presented products they will then later be able to buy. All right, what do you mean? Explain that. How is it motivation? How does it motivate children to do this? In addition, some campaigns, there's a G in there, are themselves education. The people buy, for example, using English words which will then be remembered more easily since embedded into a context. Okay. I didn't understand this. Are themselves education the people buy, for example? So this whole section was really rather strange. It became incoherent. It would have been nice if you could have given us a real live example here. What do you mean about English words and context and so forth? I like that piece of language since embedded into context. That was nice, but we're missing the kind of tangible example that would have made this stronger. On the other hand, the practice of presenting ideas in different countries can sometimes be experienced as invasive and intrusion. Invasive and intrusive. So you want a parallel structure here. Adjective, adjective. I believe that a big problem in this context, 1T, is that, get rid of A, we live in times of post-colonialism. All right, what does that mean? Although the area of colonialism has officially ended a long time ago, there are so many global... What are you saying here? I don't know if you're saying... I'm not sure what you're saying. Anyway, that represent these times of repression. One example could be that companies that have enough foundings to do marketing on an international level, often based in the global north, such as the United States, France, or Germany. Okay, this is an interesting thing that you're writing here, but there's nothing about invasion and intrusive. You're talking rather abstractly about not even politics, really. I mean, you're talking about like post-colonialism, but you're not telling us how international marketing is invasive or intrusive. You're telling us that the cause is colonialism, but you never really go into any detail about why or how, or how countries feel that they are being invaded upon. And that's what you need to be talking about. Why does a country feel that it's being invaded upon? Why does a particular country think that international marketing is invasive? Okay, and what's the validation? I mean, is this valid? Is this a valid argument? What are they saying? However, the marketing campaigns with a G, again, are mostly executed in the global south, so-called developing or emerging markets, such, you're missing a such here, as Peru, Nigeria, or the Philippines. Careful with your spelling of Philippines. I don't know what's going on with your paragraphing. This is not appropriate paragraphing. We'll talk about that at the end. This replicates colonial power structures. Even in a bigger picture, often promotes the idea of white supremacy spelling by using white models in countries with a non-white majority. Moreover, Western knowledge concepts with a T, such as development and the economic understanding on growth, are promoted, whereby indigenous knowledge is further devalued. In conclusion, I do not approve, In conclusion, I do not agree that mainstream international marketing is necessary or a valuable form of education. I'm convinced that most international advertisement campaigns replicate a colonial, I think you mean hierarchy, I'm not really sure, structures, and do not help create a more equitable, perhaps you mean here, and peaceful world. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is your paragraphing. It's important when you're aiming for a good band score to get to have very clear paragraphing, and the best way to do this is to leave an entire line between your paragraphs. You didn't do it anywhere here. Now here it was okay because it was very clear where your paragraph ended because there was a space here. Here it was clear, but then here it just became very confusing. I didn't know where the paragraph ended, where it began. It was confusing. So I really wanted you to be careful about this. I thought that this paragraph ended here, and then all this stuff happened, and that was very confusing to me. So this probably would not serve you well as far as coherence and cohesion is concerned, because there's not a logical paragraphing structure. So that's one thing. Let's see. Invasion and intrusion. Again, I really didn't, even after I read all of this stuff about white supremacy and so forth, I really wanted to hear if you could take the perspective of the countries that are being marketed to, or rather than talking about colonial power structures and so forth. Tell me why a particular country, you refer to 3 here, and capitalize Peru. Why would these countries feel like they're being invaded upon, or why would they feel they're being intruded upon with these marketing campaigns? That for me was missing. I mean, you talked very theoretically about some of this stuff. You talked about, using white models, and there you got a little specific, but I still feel like it was missing a lot of information here. Okay, so I want to wish you very good luck on your exam tomorrow. Think about some of the things that we talked about, okay? And, if you need anything further in your IELTS path, please let us know. We're here and willing to help. Okay, so best of luck tomorrow, and look forward to hearing how you do. Good luck.